The night explodes in a flash of white-hot light. Dirt and shrapnel tear through the cold Korean air, followed by the deafening crack of an artillery shell. On the frozen, churned-up ground, a young Marine cries out, his voice swallowed by the thunder of battle. Through the swirling smoke and chaos, a figure moves low and fast. He doesn't carry his rifle forward. Instead, a heavy canvas medical bag is clutched in one hand, bumping against his hip. His steel helmet is scratched, its familiar shape a dark silhouette against the intermittent glare of explosions. This is Sergeant Francis Hammond, and this is his story. The calendar reads March 26, 1953. We are deep in the grinding, brutal final year of the Korean War. Here, on a series of godforsaken hills, the men of the 1st Marine Division are locked in a deadly stalemate. This isn't a war of sweeping advances, it's a war of inches of trenches and of desperate, bloody fights for patches of worthless real estate. The landscape is a monochrome nightmare of shattered trees, craters filled with icy water, and the skeletal remains of bunkers. The very air tastes of cordite and frozen mud. Among these hardened Marines, Navy Hospital Corpsmen like Francis Hammond hold a sacred place. They are the docs, the battlefield saviors who trade a rifle for a syringe of morphine, a bayonet for a roll of bandages. Hammond's face is etched with the exhaustion of a man who has seen too much, yet his eyes hold a steady, focused calm. He is a healer in a place dedicated to destruction, a beacon of life in the valley of death. Tonight, that valley is about to grow deeper and darker. The assault begins with a roar, a wave of men rising from their trenches and surging into the darkness of no man's land. Muzzle flashes pepper the night, brief, violent stars in the gloom. Tracer rounds, green and red, stitch fiery lines through the air. The ground shudders underfoot as mortar shells walk their way across the terrain, each explosion a geyser of rock and soil. The air fills with shouts, with the metallic chatter of machine guns, and with the high-pitched whine of ricochets. Almost immediately, the calls begin. A desperate yell cuts through the din. Corpsman. Hammond is already moving. He scrambles across the broken earth, his body low, presenting the smallest possible target. He reaches a Marine, sprawled behind a shattered rock. The man's leg is a ruin of torn fabric and blood. Hammond doesn't hesitate. His hands, though caked with dirt, move with practiced precision. A tourniquet is wrenched tight, his teeth gritted with the effort. He rips open a battle dressing, his movements economical and swift, a stark contrast to the chaos raging around him. He presses the dressing into the wound, his other hand gripping the Marine's shoulder, a silent promise of aid. A flare ignites overhead, casting a ghostly, magnesium-white light across the scene. For a terrifying moment, every shape is thrown into sharp relief. The strained faces of the men, the glint of sweat on a brow, the intricate patterns of barbed wire snaking across the ground. Hammond finishes his work, gives the Marine a final, reassuring look, and then he's gone, a shadow darting towards the next cry for help. He moves from one wounded man to the next, a phantom of mercy on the battlefield. He kneels beside a boy whose chest is rising and falling in shallow, ragged breaths, whispering words of comfort that are lost in the noise. He jabs a syringe of morphine into a thigh, pushing the plunger home. He works under a constant hail of fire, the dirt around him kicking up as bullets snap past. He is oblivious to his own safety, his entire world narrowed to the single, desperate task of keeping his fellow men alive. But the enemy is not just the soldier in the opposite trench. The ground itself has been turned into a weapon. The assault falters as the lead elements run into a dense, unmarked minefield. It lies hidden in a shallow depression, a silent, patient killer waiting in the dark. The advance grinds to a halt, men pinned down by machine gun fire, afraid to move forward, unable to retreat. The wounded now lie trapped, their moans mixing with the crackle of gunfire. The calls for Hammond become more frequent, more desperate. He is a single man trying to hold back a tide of death. He moves along the edge of the deadly field, treating those he can reach. His uniform is stained dark with the blood of others. His face is a mask of grime and sweat, his eyes constantly scanning, assessing, prioritizing. He sees the sheer terror in the eyes of the men pinned down, the knowledge that any movement could be their last. He sees the wounded, some just yards away, inside that lethal garden of explosives beyond the reach of their comrades. Then a report is shouted down the line. A Marine is down deep inside the minefield. He's been hit by gunfire and is bleeding out, alone in the darkness. To the other Marines, he is unreachable, a lost cause. To go after him is suicide. The ground is seeded with anti-personnel mines, designed not just to kill, but to maim, to take a man's leg, and his will to fight. Their tripwires are nearly invisible, their pressure plates hidden just beneath the loose soil. But for Francis Hammond, there is no such thing as a lost cause. He hears the call, and for him, the calculation is simple. There is a Marine in need. He must go. He hands his extra supplies to another man, his expression one of grim resolve. There are no grand speeches, no final words. There is only the quiet determination of a man about to walk willingly into hell to rescue one of its prisoners. The battle continues to rage, but in this small section of the line, time seems to slow down. Hammond takes a deep breath, the cold air burning his lungs. He takes a slow, deliberate step onto the churned-up soil of the minefield. Every sense is on high alert. His boots press gently into the earth, testing the ground before he commits his full weight. His eyes, now accustomed to the dark, scan the ground before him, searching for the slightest sign of danger, a piece of disturbed earth, the glint of a tripwire, the faint outline of a pressure plate. He moves like a ghost. Each step is a lifetime. The sound of his own breathing is a roar in his ears. The world shrinks to the few feet of lethal ground in front of him. He passes the first few yards, his heart hammering against his ribs. Flares still burst intermittently overhead, and in those moments of brilliant, terrifying light, he freezes, a statue in a landscape of death, hoping the sudden illumination hasn't revealed a hidden wire at his feet. He can see the wounded Marine now, a dark shape on the ground just ahead. He quickens his pace, but his movements remain agonizingly careful. He finally reaches the man, dropping to one knee beside him. The Marine is conscious, his face pale, his eyes wide with a mixture of pain and disbelief that someone has come for him. Hammond offers a quick, reassuring nod. His hands go to work immediately, his focus absolute. He is back in his element, a healer, pushing back against the darkness. He ignores the mines that surround them, ignores the bullets still snapping through the air. All that matters is the man at his feet. He assesses the wound, his fingers probing gently. He needs a better angle to apply a proper dressing, to stop the bleeding that is stealing this man's life. He shifts his weight, planting his knee in the soft earth for better leverage. He leans forward, his hands covered in blood, his mind entirely on the task. His boot pivots slightly, settling into the dirt. There is no sound, no click, only a sudden, violent eruption from the earth beneath him. A blinding, deafening blast of force and fire that consumes the darkness in an instant. The shock wave rips through the air, silencing the battle for a split second. And then there is nothing. Sergeant Francis Hammond is killed instantly. In the final act of his life, in the middle of a minefield, under constant enemy fire, he died not while taking a life, but while trying to save one. The smoke slowly clears from the crater. The battle for the hill would rage on through the night and into the next day, March 27th. But for the men who witnessed his sacrifice, something had changed. They had seen the absolute limit of courage, the definition of a hero who walked through the valley of the shadow of death to fear no evil. For his actions on that frozen Korean hillside, for his conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Hospital Corpsman Francis Hammond was awarded, posthumously, the nation's highest honor. The medal, a 5-pointed star hanging from a blue ribbon, would be presented to his family, a small, cold piece of metal that could never replace the man, but would forever tell the story of his immense bravery. He was a shepherd to his flock of Marines, and he laid down his life for them on a forgotten hill, a world away from home. Tell me your favorite war story I should talk about next. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.